Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. I am thrilled today to be joined in the Hackensack Meridian Health podcast studio. Keep getting better. By the one and only Chris Mad Dog Russo. Doggy, it's been a long time, my friend.
Yeah,
How are
Tony,
you?
how are you, pal? Saturday mornings a long time ago on the great series, in the great 66 Sports Radio 66. Boy, I'm even forgetting the names myself here on WFAN. But it's been a long time. Nice to talk to you. You've had a great career doing this Giant stuff, and hopefully you win more than 3 games this year. Give yourself a little juice in the course, which you should in the course of the season.
From your lips, Doggy. And now I'm
Yeah,
working with you. I'm working with your former producer, Malusis. We're hosting shows every week on Saturday morning now.
Oh, are you really? You and
Yes.
Marky? Good to hear that. And Mark still got the PIX thing going, Channel 11 Sports, does he not?
Yes, he does.
And you, the both of you, boy, the FAN crew keeps on expanding, which is good to see.
We are.
Anyway, I do think the Giants will have a good year. Actually, I think they'll be a lot better in 2025.
Yes, and we'll get to the Giants in a second here, dog, but you're going to be part of a cool show coming up called NFL Classic After Further Review, hosted by Kyle Brandt. And you basically have guys watching past NFL games and talking about it. The game you got this year, I think it's going to be the season finale. It's going to be every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on Vice TV. You're going to be with Phil Simms talking about his Super Bowl where he was almost perfect against the Broncos. How cool is this thing going to be?
Excellent. And I had Phil on my radio program here at Sirius XM for the last 5, 6 years. So I have a very good relationship with him. Who doesn't love Phil? But we spent, a good couple of hours watching that Denver game in January of '87, of course, in Pasadena, and going through the specifics of the game. I mean, not every play, but every significant drive of the game. He, of course, was 22 or 25. The aspect of the game that is interesting is the idea that the game, Denver had was right there for a large part of the game. It was a 10-9 at the half and everything else. I mean, the Broncos were right in the game, and the Giants were the much better team and obviously blew them out in the second half, winning the game 39-20. But we spent a lot of time with Phil. Phil remembered every play like you wouldn't believe, gave us some insights on specific pass routes. Bavaro, a touchdown, Zeke Moat, a big touchdown. And McConkey had a huge game, as you know. He felt very good going into that game. He had great workouts out in California during the week. He felt he was crisp, felt that they were going to throw the ball and be effective. Good stuff in there. Listen, it's 40 years ago, but most Giant fans, if you're 50 and over, have a good feeling of that game. It's their first championship in 30 years. And Kyle does a great job, and Phil and I break down a game with Kyle there. So if you are a football fan and you like the Giants, there's nothing much you're not going to like. Maybe if you're a Bronco fan, you lay low, but if you're a Giant fan, you're going to enjoy it.
Now, I worked with Phil a bunch over here. Did he allow you to get at least a couple words in while you were watching the game
yes,
together?
he did. And his memory, he is wonderful with his memory. We talked a little bit about the Brown game because remember the week before that or 2 weeks before that, that was a 98-yard drive by Elway against Cleveland. And we talked a little bit about that, and that was the first game of that doubleheader that day. The Giant-Washington game was game 2. And we talked a little bit about that game. I think he was on the field during the Elway drive, warm-ups. But did you want to play the Browns or did you want to play the Broncos? Now, they played the Broncos, as you know, John, during the regular season late, and that was the George Martin play. It was either a fumble or an interception where he turned it like 73 yards for a touchdown. So very, very good stuff out of Phil. He's very proud of that day, as he should. Talked about the Disney thing. I want to go to Disney World. He thought that was a joke, and that was the first time they had ever done it.
Yep.
And he thought it was a joke and how lucrative that was. And he did go to Disney World. Parcells, you name it, they discussed. And they were confident. You could tell the Giants' offense, Phil felt very good about what he was going to do in that game. They knew they had a great defense. They had beaten Denver in a regular year, although close. They were confident the Giants. I think the biggest surprise is the game was so close for the first 30 minutes. That was a close game at the half.
Yeah.
And then the
10-3, right? 10-3?
10-9. 10-9.
Thank you.
And remember, 10-9. And don't forget, they went for it on 4th and 1 early in the third quarter on that quarterback sneak by, what was the backup quarterback's name? Jeff something? Not Haas. That was in 90.
Not Rutledge. He was gone by then, right?
No, not who the hell was it? I'll think of it in a second. But they got a first down on 4th and on short, I think it was the first drive of the third quarter on a quarterback sneak, which is a huge, it may have been Rutledge, which is a huge play in the game, gave the Giants momentum and away they went. Talk a little bit about that play too. So a lot of good things in there if you're a Giant fan. No question
Yeah,
about it.
it's funny, dog. But before we get to this year, I always say I think the favorite game that I've been a part of doing the Giants thing. And look, it's been a while since the Giants have been in some really big games, but it wasn't one of the Super Bowls. The game I remember the most, though, being in the booth for and doing was the game at Green Bay in the title game, early 2008, 2007
Yeah,
season.
great game. Yep.
And you were in the booth as us watching that game. You had done a show there previous that day. And I always tell the story. We're in the booth. Papa's got the windows open, even though it's like negative 30 degrees outside. We're all freezing. And me and you look at each other when they go out there and Tynes lines up for the next field goal. And we both look at each other and we go, there's no way he's making this thing. Because he had missed the ones earlier. And then
He
boom,
missed a lot of them.
right through.
I do. That was the Corey Webster interception on Favre
Yep.
in that game. Yeah, that was the second game that day. It was -2 degrees at kickoff. Mike had done his first show. I did a show after that on that Sunday afternoon. I had Jim Taylor on. Never forget it, the great Packer running back. And, the Giants, and obviously Coughlin didn't have the mask on. His face froze. And Eli had an incredible game. And so did Plaxico Burress. I think Plaxico Burress broke the Ray Berry record for catches in a championship game, which Berry had established in the 58 game against the Giants. And I think Burress, maybe by one or two catches, broke the record. He had 12 catches that day. Was it 12?
Yeah,
I had to look it up, but there's a lot of them. And that was a great game and a great Giant win. And of course, they went from there. One of the great runs you're going to have. Beat Tampa, beat Dallas, beat Green Bay, and beat the Patriots. You can't get any better than that if you're a Giant fan.
And Rutledge did have a 2-yard run in that game. So I think it was Rutledge that had the run.
Okay, so Rutledge was the backup quarterback on the quarterback sneak. You'll see that play extolled and discussed with Phil on the Vice show.
And Burris, by the way, Al Harris had a lot to say heading into that game, and Burris absolutely murdered Al Harris all day.
Did he have, 12 catches, 158 yards? Whatever it was, he had a huge game.
Yeah, everyone thought, Favre in the cold weather, it's advantage Packers. It ended up being Eli that outplayed Favre in the cold weather.
Eli play. Eli in a lot of ways, his career, in a lot of ways, is like about 5 or 6 games that were superlative. 2 against Tampa, 1 in San Francisco. That game in Green Bay, though, may have been, from an ability standpoint, the best game he's ever played because he was great that game.
I agree with you. And they always seem to come in the biggest spots, which is why Eli was who he was. All right, Doggy, you mentioned a couple times. You think the Giants can be better this year? Very simple. Why?
Yeah, I love their defense. I think they got a great pass rush. So I like that aspect of it. And we know they got a tough schedule. But I love their pass rush. The kid from Penn State's going to be a monster. Burns is very good. Lawrence sitting there. Thibodeau's sitting there. I mean, they got a lot of defensive linemen. I like that. Wilson will be better than Jones. Plus, you got Dart in there, who I think will get some sequences. We saw that Jet preseason game where he had that one pass play. Neighbors is very good. Their schedule is brutal. Early on, Washington, Dallas, Kansas City, that first Sunday night game at home, their opener. But I think the Giants are going to be, do I think they'll be a playoff team? I wouldn't say that. But I think they're going to win 8-9 games. And I like Dable. I think Dable is a good coach. I think Shane took way too much heat for letting Barkley go to Philadelphia. I deal with the ESPN guys all the time on the Wednesday. They love to kill Shane, for that Hard Knock series. I don't blame Shane for that. As it turns out, Barkley walked into the perfect spot with that offensive line. And although I like to see Dable open up a little more with the media, he never says anything. But
no,
I
he
think
does not. Trust me, I'm well aware.
Oh, he doesn't say anything. I mean, Brian, nobody's going to bite you. You can give us something. I mean, just to pacify us, please. Give me an opinion. But I do like him. I think most Giant fans do like him, and I think he's a good coach, and I think you'll see some of that this year. I think Giants have a much better season. Now, again, that doesn't mean they're going to go 13-4, but I think the Giants going to have a much better season. And from what we've seen, John, you're there at practices, so you know more than I do. I only saw a little bit in the preseason. I saw him a lot in college. Dart looks like he's going to be pretty good, and that's huge. I mean, they got the kid from Penn State, and they get Dart, and if they win 8-9 games, that's a good year for the Giants. It's a good year.
The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K racing kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds would benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative t-shirt after the race. Stay for a festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you gotta go over the middle with it to score.
Right. How do we make that happen?
I don't know.
But Citizens does.
Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of Eli Manning.
And it gives fans hope, right? You see progress
Yes.
of the players here, and then you see what the future could look like, which is important. So I guess my question for you is this: how do you think they navigate this? Because dog, you've been through this with a lot of young teams that draft
That's an
young
interesting
quarterbacks.
question.
They
That's
have
an
the veteran. How are they going to navigate this over the course of
That's
the
a
year?
very, very interesting
Because
question.
it can get messy if it doesn't go well early.
100%. And plus, you had the Manning thing with Warner a long time ago.
Correct.
When he took him out at 5-4, but Warner handled that like such a good guy that it wasn't that messy. I'm not sure if Wilson will be as accommodating. I think the first thing that you'll see, I do think Dart, forget Jameis Winston. I do think that Dart will see some action in certain packages in the course of the early part of the season. I think he'll get 3 or 4 plays like you saw in that Jet game. I think you might, just as a changeup, I think you might see that. But I think that is going to be very tricky for the coaching staff is, when is it apparent where you're not making the playoffs, where you got to let the kid play? I mean, let's face it. You can't play the whole season without getting a look at him for 3 or 4 games. And when you make that switch, how do you handle it with Wilson? As long as you're pretty good and, having a better year than you think, I think you got to leave it alone, but he's got to play. So I think that's a very interesting question. That is something that is going to be, you're not going to pay attention to it too much the first half of the year, but there's going to be coming a time around Halloween, if the Giants are playing badly, where people are going to want to see Dart play. And how Dable makes that switch will be interesting. I think the interesting aspect of it, though, is if they're bad, it's easier to make the switch. How about if the Giants are surprising people, effective, and they're 5-4? Then what do you do?
And look, I think that's
I think that's the playoffs. You're 5-4. How do you handle that with Dart? That will be.
I think that's the situation they want to be in, right? They don't want this to be a deal where they kind of get pushed into it, right? They want to be able to sit there and have the choice. And if they're winning with Russell Wilson and dog, they just haven't scored enough points the last 2 years. The offense has been at 15 points per game, 16 points per game. You can't win doing that. If they get up to 20, 21 points per game with Russell Wilson and they're hovered around 500, I feel like they're going to try to stick with him for as long as they can here because they bring him in here and they're trying to win ball games,
I agree with you, John. I do think they probably will go with Wilson as long as they can. And I do think, and I'm only basing this, and I know he's not a runner, but I'm only basing this on that Jet preseason game when he put him in, surprisingly enough, through a 46-yard pass just for the one play. He may have just wanted to see how it went, if Dart can handle it. But I do think there'll be some games, even when Wilson is the starter early, where you might see Dart get in there for a play or two just to keep his feet wet. I could see that, where the Giants are trying to go down that very tricky line where they're trying to win, but also develop a rookie. And a franchise that hasn't won in a while, that obviously with Shane and Dable need to show some improvement, especially the head coach, to get another crack at it for down the road. But I do think Mara likes the both of them. I think Shane, he's had some good drafts. I think he had a great draft this year. Moving up to get Dart was excellent. And I'm a Dable. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't talk to the Giant fan on a week-to-week basis like you might, calling up on talk shows. This is not 1997, when I'm sitting here with Mike for 5.5 hours, Giant call after Giant call. It's a little different when you're doing it over at Sirius. So I don't get a sense of what the temperature is. But if it's me and I'm a Giant fan, I do think Dable's a good coach. I really do.
Look, I think so too, and I just think he's been invigorated, dog, by having different guys in the quarterback room that are willing to kind of make those throws downfield. And I know Russell Wilson's not the same guy he was 10 years ago. No one would claim that he can't move around as well. But I just think when you have a veteran like that, it raises the floor so much, and he's going to make the right calls at the line of scrimmage, protections, decisions. He's not going to turn it over. I think Dable trusts him to execute his vision. And I think we'll see now if you have the right player in there. What does that vision look like? Which I'm not sure we've seen the last couple of years.
Well, he made that great pass in the Jet game, the bomb, and Dable made sure he praised him for that. And somebody who would know, and I hate to play the someone who know game without giving you the name, but someone told me that Dable is drooling over Dart. So, and again, all signs point to the fact he's going to be pretty good. So, and it's funny about Dart. The one game last year, and we saw them play plenty. You see Ole Miss play 3-4 games. A bowl game 2 years ago against Penn State. But the one game last year that was a little alarming with Ole Miss.
The LSU?
The Florida. No, LSU, they played well. They lost in overtime.
Oh, that's right. It was the fourth quarter against Auburn, right? Is that what it was?
The Florida game.
Florida. That's right. Thank you.
Oh, he was terrible. Threw 4 interceptions. I got beat up by the pass rush. And that was the last game they played. And they needed to win that game to be in consideration. It wasn't the last game. They played Mississippi State last. But they needed to win that game to be in consideration for the playoff. And they lost. That game alarmed me. But the Giants might know more than I do, and Dable does like him, supposedly. So that's good news.
Dog, your memory is still unbelievable, by the way. You are all over it.
Giants a long time ago. Yeah, a long time.
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens Official Bank of the Giants. Game day celebrations, everyday financial needs. Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. What do you think this looks like with Russell Wilson, dog? Are they going to try to recreate Seattle here with good defense, run it, throw some deep balls down the field, not put too much on his plate? What do you think it's going to look like with him as the starter earlier in the year?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see the Wilson that we saw with Seattle there, say, 8-9 years ago. He wasn't terrible last year at Pittsburgh. Wasn't terrible. I mean, obviously, and his second year in Denver for Peyton, he wasn't terrible either. He was awful that first year. He's a little. Everybody claims he's a little aloof. In Denver especially.
Which is funny, dog, because he has not been here. The players love him here.
They love him.
The players love him.
How about the media?
So far, so good.
Really? Wow. Yeah. So that's a good sign then. So I think Wilson's got a little something to prove. He's been dumped now by a lot of teams. Seattle trades him. Denver gets rid of him. Pittsburgh. This is his 4th team in 5 years.
Yep.
He was a Hall of Fame quarterback. Now, with all the movement in the last 5 years, he's almost a little bit more on the bubble. He was a Hall of Famer there at the end of his Seattle run. Now you're not so sure. Plus, you got to bring up that unbelievably poor play against the Patriots when he threw an interception at the goal line, which was just cost him the Super Bowl. We found out he loved tennis this weekend. He was at the U.S. Open for 2 consecutive days. I didn't realize how much he loved it. Good athlete. I think that... I think he'll be pretty careful with the football. He was pretty decent for Pittsburgh last year. Decent. I think he'll be a step up. Do I think he's going to be great? No. But I do love that Giant pass rush. I also do think, Wilson included, Giants got a little chip on their shoulder. I think the Giants have a decent season. I really do. I don't love the Jets at all. I think the Giants have a decent season.
All right. Last one on the Giants before we hit the league a little bit. Focusing on that defense, you've mentioned it a couple times. You think this defense is going to be really good, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I know they added some people in the secondary, but Bill Walsh said it a long time ago. The key to NFL football is a 4th quarter pass rush. And if Bill Walsh can say it, I listen. And Walsh said that a lot with that great Niner team that had a very underrated defense. And, Haley was tremendous for him getting to the quarterback. And I think the Giants will get to the quarterback. And I think that's a big plus. And this Carter, he's great, right? He's had an incredible camp. You can't block him. And then you got Burns, who's quietly very, very good. Lawrence in the middle. I love the Giant pass rush. And because of that, I think they're going to be a very dangerous team. I think their defense can be so much better. And as a result with that, I think they got a chance to be an effective team. And I do like their defense, Johnny. I really do.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help. Make sense of your money with Citizens.
All right, Doggy, we have not seen a team repeat as NFC East champion since 2004 when Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb did it. Make the case. How does that streak continue this year with the Eagles just being as talented as they are?
I'll take Washington just for the hell of it. They got the receivers signed. The quarterback is very, very good. And did you see the Eagles' schedule?
It's tough.
I've never seen a schedule like this. They play the AFC West, which had 3 playoff teams last year. They play Buffalo, which is on the road. They play Washington the last 2 games, the last 2 out of 3 games of the season.
And the NFC North, which is very
And they
tough.
play the Lions, Packers, Minnesota. You took the words right out of my mouth. And don't forget, they have to play the Bucks and the Rams because they won divisions. I think the Eagles, and remember, they weren't so good after they lost the Super Bowl a few years ago. They came back the next year. They were 10-1 and they finished 11-5. Their over/under number is awfully high. Now, Dallas, who knows? Giants are not going to win 11 games. It'd have to be up to Washington to do that. Washington's a little older team than you would think. And, are they going to catch people by surprise again? But I think the Eagles, I will say there will not be a repeat NFC. As you said, the NFC East hasn't been a repeat winner. Is that what you said, John?
That's correct.
NFC?
Yes.
That is interesting. So that means I'd have to take Washington. I can't take Dallas and the Giants. I'd have to take Washington. So I'm a little worried to do that. Sophomore Jinx, quarterback, getting an awful lot. No, he's good, but boy, oh boy, that is to be different. I'll say that Washington wins the NFC East. The Philadelphia schedule is hard. Let's be honest. That's a hard schedule. Jeez, that's a hard schedule. I mean, they play at Kansas City in week 2. They finish up at Washington, at Buffalo, Washington. That is brutal. And they play the Giants early in the season twice. And so the Giants, who always had the Eagles late this season when they're out of it, this year the Giants are going to get them early where the games will be more significant because the Giants will feel like they're in it. Those will be harder games. I mean, and the NFC West, the AFC West is hard. So I'll say the Eagles will come down a little bit, down to the earth, and I'll say Washington will win the division. 11-6, 10-7, something like that.
It's funny you mentioned the AFC West, dog. Have you ever seen a division with coaches like that? Harbaugh, Reed, Peyton, Carroll. You could have 3 or 4 Hall of Famers coaching at that division right now. That's crazy.
That's 100% right. And the Chiefs have a hard schedule too. They play Buffalo and the Ravens and the Eagles, the NFC East. They got that division's hard. Those are a lot of rivalry. Now they win those games in the division every year, but they are rivalry games. But you're right. That division's got, Harbaugh's excellent. And I'm a little worried about Herbert, who did not play well last year, and he was awful against the Texans. Awful. He was. And his star has dipped a little bit. But obviously Peyton's an excellent coach, and you bring in the idea that Reed is going to the Hall of Fame, and Carroll knows how to win. You're right, and that division's a good division because there's not a bad team in that division. All those teams are pretty. Even the Raiders are not bad. Geno and Carroll, that's not terrible. So that division will be relatively competitive. You got to pick the Chiefs, but they'll knock each other off all year long in the AFC West. I really think they will.
AFC, we know they got the monster quarterbacks. Those are the teams that can compete for a Super Bowl. In the NFC, it's much more wide open, doggy. Aside from Philadelphia, who's the team you're watching now that you think could try to make a run and get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's a good. I'm going to say San Francisco. I know they lost a lot of people, but I like their winning culture. I love Shanahan. The Vegas number is 10.5, which is, you say, wow, really? Why that high? You see their schedule? Oh my God, it's so easy. Yeah. They play the NFC South and the AFC South. So they have Tennessee, Jacksonville, Carolina, the Saints. They got a very, very easy schedule. And then they play the last place teams. They play the Giants, the Bears, and the Browns. So they have Arizona, Seattle, and the Rams 6 times. They play the Giants, the Browns, and the Bears. That's 9 times. And then they play all those games, the eight games against those 2 divisions. That's pretty easy. So and they have an easy start to the year. They play Seattle, the Saints, Jacksonville. They got a chance to be 4-0. And Purdy's better than you think, and I like the head coach. I think San Francisco will be better than you think in the NFC.
Do either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson finally break through this year and get to the Super Bowl?
Well, I think Allen's better than Jackson. So if I had to take somebody, I would take Allen. I know everybody likes to put Lamar on this incredible level because of winning the 2 MVPs, but he's 3-5 in the playoffs. He's never played a great playoff game. Even last year, although it was Mark Andrews' fault, he fumbled, which resulted in a touchdown. He didn't play great in the game. Allen's had great games on losing causes, 2 against the Chiefs, just the one game in Kansas City when freaking McDermott didn't know what he was doing with the squib kick. And then he lost because Diggs couldn't catch a pass at 27-24 2 years ago when the Chiefs beat him in Buffalo in the divisional round. Maybe Buffalo's do. They've had a bad preseason, but maybe Buffalo's do. So I think if anybody could do it, I like Allen better than I like Lamar. And I think the Bengals will be better too. I know their defense stinks, but they seem like they understand they got to get off to a better start in September. They're 1-11 under Zach Taylor the last 3 Septembers. They should be better than that this year. I think the Bengals will be better than you think too.
Final question, Doggy. Now that you're over at the mothership doing stuff with Stephen A, First Take, and all that stuff, does ESPN realize that they've stole like half of their programming format from the success you and Mike had back in the day, and all it is guys debating each other now, and they basically just do sports talk on the radio, except they put cameras in front of people? Do they realize that or no?
You know, I haven't heard. I should, if they do, I should get a residual fee.
Yes.
Because Mike and I did that, on Yes for a while. We did it for such a long time, and it's a debate show. And the idea there, when you do these debate shows on TV, I have 2 rules of thumb. One, get in and out pretty quick. Don't filibuster for 3-4 minutes. Give everybody a chance to talk. That's important. And number 2, don't take it too seriously. Let's have some fun with it. Let's not take yourself so seriously. So those are the 2 themes that I play with. And I'm just happy they still want me after all these years. But you're right. It's TV debate, sports talk. You're 100% right, John. 100%.
Mad Dog Radio, Sirius XM. I mentioned First Take, ESPN. Of course, you also find them on NFL Classic after further review, Wednesdays nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on Vice TV. Chris Mad Dog Russo. Doggy, anything else you do and you up to that you want people to know about? Any more books coming out?
Don't forget, I do. Yeah, one thing. I'm about to finish a 5-part series on Vice where we're going to debate, again, that word, athletes. Ruth Otani, Ali, Tyson,
oh, that's
Tiger,
fun.
and Jack. There's 5 shows. We have one more to make sure we finish, the tennis one. But it's very good. A lot of good interviews. Gary Myers has had a lot of input with it. It's the second year I've done with the Vice. Vice does a great job. They let me do what I want with it. They got a great staff. I love Vice. So since you mentioned Vice with this thing in conjunction with Omaha Productions, mine is not in conjunction with Omaha. This rewind thing with the football is, but it's on Vice. And they did the Patino thing in Calipari. So they do a good job with sports. And so that we are going to work on in the fall, too. So keep an eye on that.
Oh, when that comes out, maybe we'll have you back on. We could talk about it, Dog. That would be great.
John. John, good to see you doing so well, John. Good to see you.
Dog, I appreciate that. Look, I grew up in sports. I got into this business because of you and Mike. I've told you that before. You guys are the best. You always have been. And I really appreciate everything you've done for me in my career. I really do appreciate it.
Good job, Giant. Go Giants. Go Giants.
And you can find that episode with Dog and Sims talking about Super Bowl 21, October 8th, the season finale of NFL Classic, after further review on Vice TV. That's the Giants Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. We'll see you next time, everybody.